on the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Is the Biden administration actively pursuing high energy prices in order to force Americans into electric vehicles?
Of course not. The more pain we are all experiencing from the high price of gas, the more benefit there is for those who can access electric vehicles.
Of course not. But he already said earlier he was. Congressman Carlos Gimenez joins us now, ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee, Transportation and Maritime Security Subcommittee, and the Homeland Security Committee, I should say, and was just down at the border. Congressman, first off, what was your take from the Secretary of Transportation trying to sell us on green energy and kind of with a wry smile, not really suffering with us on the price of gas?
Well, I mean, he kind of backed away from that statement, saying, "No, I really didn't say that." I said, "No, you said that." And so this is really what their whole plan is to raise gasoline prices, try to force us into, their Green New Deal stuff, especially electric cars, et cetera. So in order for this to work, in their estimation, because it's kind of worked, this thing actually kind of worked in Germany, is you make it so painful that people say, "Okay, well, now we got to go green." Okay, and so that's exactly what they want to do. That's exactly why the price of gas is going up, and that's what they want to do. And so, they want to force us into this green stuff and solar panels and windmills and all, which, by the way, is fine. But we should have an all of the above, and we should also be using, the natural resources we have here in the United States to create jobs, to balance our trade, and also look at Russia used energy as a weapon. We have, vast reserves here that we should be using it for the same purpose, to help our allies, help them, escape this threat of Russia and withholding their energy. So those are the things that we need to do, and this administration just refuses to do it.
We know there's now that's 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, which usually means recession, but not with this administration. And then yesterday we find out that Joe Manchin cut a deal with Senator Schumer on the, get this, Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Total revenue raised, they claim, $739 billion. 15% corporate minimum tax at $313 billion, they claim. Prescription drug pricing reform will save us $288 billion. IRS tax enforcement, they're going to militarize and weaponize the IRS. Fantastic. That worked out well last time. The carried interest loophole, $14 billion, which I heard Senator Sinema's against. Total investment, $433 billion in energy and climate change, $369 billion into whatever that means, whatever they want it to mean. What is what was your sense when you heard about Senator Manchin cutting this deal?
I was disappointed, obviously, in the senator who's held the line, for so long and really, held off this absolute insanity from this president and the Democrats. At a time when we have recession, at a time when we have inflation, you are now what you're going to do, and we're trying to get American companies to come back to the United States because we've seen all the problems with offshoring and all of the supply chain issues that we've had. And frankly, it's time that we stop funding, the Chinese Communist Party and start bringing some of these industries back to the United States to protect our long-term interests. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it harder for American companies to come back to the United States, easier for them to leave because we're going to give them a new tax. Oh, by the way, if you love IRS audits, I know we all, look forward to the day when we get audited by the IRS. We're going to get a whole bunch more because they have to raise over $100 billion more in taxes and revenue from hardworking Americans, which, by the way, are now suffering from 9% inflation, and then the Fed just raised their basis, 75 basis points on interest. So we're going to pay more for all the money that we have to borrow as citizens. Then we're going to, it's 10%. We basically took a 10% pay cut. Then the IRS is going to come after us in a pocketbook by auditing all of us, to the penny, and all of this in the name of climate change. Climate change. Give me a break.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. The only way we'll get a break is in the midterms. That's the only thing that could stop it for Republicans to get a little bit of power back. Congressman, I thought at first it was just the Democrats were so determined to overturn every Trump policy, they overstepped with the border. Then I thought it was just negligence. And now I think it's intentional what's happening.
It is.
What did you conclude when you went down there? Tell everyone what you did this week.
Well, we went down there and we looked at the border and what's going on the border. We went to Eagle Pass. We saw a processing center where it's over capacity. They're over capacity every single day. That means that Customs and Border Protection agents that normally should be protecting our border are now processing all these, illegal immigrants coming into the country. So we figure there's going to be well over 2 million actual encounters by our Customs and Border Patrol agents this year. Is going to be a record. But something else they told me was, look, they had 500,000 that they know of, escaped encounters, which means that they walked into this country. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their intentions are. We don't know their criminal backgrounds. We know nothing about these people. But it's even worse, because when I asked one of their commanders, I said, well, how many, those are the ones that you know that you didn't encounter. How many do you think got away that you know nothing about? And he goes, well, at least double that amount. So we're looking at over 1 million immigrants that have come into this country we know nothing about. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they want. We don't know the criminal background, nothing about them. And so this is all intentional, all of it, Brian. It's all intentional because you can't be this dumb. The Customs and Border Protection agents have told the administration exactly what they have to do, restore Trump-era policies. We reduced illegal immigration by 90%. But the first thing that Biden did was overturn it. Why? Because he wants this to happen. This is by design. It is not by accident. It's not by incompetence. It's completely by design. Why? I don't know, but it is by design.
Well, how many Democrats made the trip, and how many outside Henry Cuellar have ever expressed to you a real worry about what's happening down there?
None. Zero. No Democrat outside of Henry has gone to the border. And I guess Henry's there because he's on the border. But no other Democrat has gone to the border. Obviously, the czar never went to the border. And Biden has not gone to the border. And so, Mayorkas, I don't know how he's gone to the border, but, for him to sit and tell us that this border is under control is a, bald-faced lie. It's completely untrue. And, he's heading and he's doing what the Biden administration wants him to do, which is continue these policies because we like what's going on at the border. There is a plan. I don't know what it is again, Brian, but this is done on purpose.
Congressman Carlos Gimenez is with us of Florida's 26th district. Congressman, what I'm encouraged at is Mayor Adams spoke up over the last few days. Well, it started last week and a few others, and said, he wanted to blame the governor of Texas and Arizona for dropping off illegals, and it turns out they're not doing it. They're putting some on buses voluntarily and dropping them in D.C., not New York. But New York's mayor came out and said, stop the midnight flights to Westchester and elsewhere that drop illegal immigrants into my city because they're overburdening the social welfare system, including the shelters themselves. That, to me, is the beginning of, I think more local you get, the less political you get, for the most part. That's a mayor just speaking up saying, I can't sustain this anymore.
Well, look, I was the mayor of Miami-Dade County, right? And so all politics is local. And so the mayor is trying to kind of save his side because he's a Democrat. These are the Democrat policies. And so he has to try to protect his city, which, I commend him for. Will it have an impact? Probably not. Probably what they'll do is then they'll stop shipping folks to, in the middle of the night to Westchester and instead ship them all around the country and kind of, give him a break, because he is a Democrat mayor. So this is not going to stop. They're not going to change their policy, and we're just going to see more and more of it and until the entire nation, stands up and says enough. And so at this point, you got one mayor, not all, Democrat mayors are saying the same thing. A lot of these Democrat cities are sanctuary cities, and we've seen, how well that works. And so, again, until there's some kind of a breaking point, like there was in San Francisco with the prosecutor, et cetera, where people say enough, then it's not going to change. I mean,
Congressman,
look, this is not a good item for the president. He knows he's suffering on immigration. That's one of the things that's really his weaknesses. Yet he continues to do it because he feels that his ideology is above all else, and so he's going to continue to do it until he thinks he has to pay a real steep political price.
Okay, this is my hope. Between Democratic mayors speaking up and the Hispanic vote beginning to tilt to the right. You're of Hispanic descent. I know what's happened in Florida where President Trump got a lot of the Hispanic vote, but now it seems to be happening nationwide. To your friends and families and political experts, What is happening, and why is the porous border working against the Democrats when it comes to the Hispanic community?
Well, because Hispanics are pro law and order. We came here for law and order. We came here from places. I came here escaping communism. But most of the migrants that came in, and most of the people of Hispanic descent here came here legally. So they didn't break the law coming in. They're hardworking. They want opportunity for their children, and they don't like what's happening at the border. People just coming in, breaking our laws, and this president turning its back on them. And so I've always felt that Hispanics eventually were going to turn to the Republican Party. The Republican Party the values of the Republican Party are much more aligned with Hispanics than the values of the Democrat Party. And so the Democrat Party is leaning more and more further to the left, extreme left, and in some cases interplanetary left. And the Hispanics are not there. We're not there. We are hardworking. We're people of faith. We're people of family. We came here for opportunity. We want to live the American dream, and we see that slipping away with these Democrat policies. And that's why the Hispanics are now rushing to the GOP. Maybe that will wake up the Democrats, but I don't believe so. I think their ideology blinds them to everything else.
So you don't think that they'll say, wait, it's working against us. I'm going to have to go. We have to enforce the border.
No, I think they always think that, look, our policies are great. It's just a matter of messaging. All right. They just think that we're not smart enough to figure it out how great their policies are. And then because they actually do look down on us, they think that, hey, we know what's best for you all. And therefore you should be grateful that we're doing these things. Look, we're smart enough to figure this all out for ourselves. We don't need anybody telling us what to do. They think that their ideology is, the future, and that is a question of messaging. They just need to message it differently. You hear that all the time. Well, they just don't get it because they haven't heard it right. They've been misinformed. Therefore, they'll come back to us. They're not going to come back. They know exactly what they're trying to sell, and we're not buying it.
Gotcha. Congressman, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Brian. You have a good one.
You got it. Carlos. That is Congressman Carlos Gimenez of Florida, 26th District. He